Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome. This is the Successful But Single podcast. Y'all are moving and shaking while we're doing this broadcast, so please excuse me. I hope you are having a fantabulous day and a wonderful evening. We are going to jump right in. This is the Successful But Single podcast where we do our thing without a ring. I am your host, Natalie Freeman, and y'all, I am just elated, excited, ecstatic because I have my friends in the room with me. We are going to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. When I started this podcast, y'all, I started it during the pandemic, y'all. We were all home, right? Some of us had COVID blues, some of us didn't. So I had a lot of time to think because I was the one without, So what was going on is I just began to start thinking, why am I single and what is going on with relationships and how can we build them better? How can we be stronger? So that is how this podcast was birthed. And so I brought it online. I began to literally, y'all, pop in DMs, everybody DMs, the women's DMs, the men's DMs, everybody's DMs. I just began to pop in and I began to ask them questions about their life, their relationships, whether they were happy to be single, happy to be, not single, wherever they were in life and what was going on with them. And people were like, really? And people were answering candidly. And I was like, you better believe it. They were. And people were so surprised about that because I guess just maybe being home, they just wanted that outlet of people to talk to. But what I found out at that time were men. Men needed some support. They wanted to be heard. They wanted to be listened to. So one of the things that happened when this podcast jumped off, y'all, I created a platform for men to speak. I created a platform to men to be heard. But most importantly, I wanted to, especially in season 2, to create a platform where solutions were found that our relationships could be stronger. We could be stronger as individuals. And so I'm excited tonight that we are here. We're going to keep the party going for season 2. We're going to talk about in this season what it means to have strong support or what happens when there is an absence of paternal parental figure in the home. So we're going to get started with that. But before we do, I'm going to introduce my guest. That'll give me some time to make sure that all platforms have this live and we will make sure that we are all here together. So I'm going to just drop off for a second because I want our guests tonight just to introduce themselves. So we have Dr. Lauren Huff with us tonight. We have James Toney with us tonight. They are both authors, y'all. They're both speakers. They have both been in the caring space for quite some time. But as y'all know, I love to let people introduce themselves. And so I'm going to turn it over. So ladies first, Dr. Lauren Huff, my friend, how you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for having me this evening.
No problem. Please tell the listening audience where you are from, y'all, as y'all are coming in. Let us know where you are calling from. If you're a friend of the guest, if you just happen to see us on live, just let us know. And I'm going to drop back so that they can introduce themselves and we'll make sure we are streaming perfectly. Okay. So Lauren, take it away.
Thank you so much again. Like Natalie said, I'm Dr. Lauren Huff. I'm the founder CEO of a 501c3 nonprofit. It's called Daughters Need a Father Incorporated. I founded the organization back in 2011 because I saw that there was a need for programs for girls growing up in father-absent households. I saw that there were programs already set aside for boys, but there wasn't a lot of resources available for girls. So I really felt that was needed. A little bit about me. I grew up without a father. My father was incarcerated the first 10 years of my life. He was in prison for armed robbery with a sawed-off shotgun. So when he got out of prison, he just wasn't very interested in having a relationship with me. And that was a void that I carried on throughout my teenage years, and it ultimately impacted my adulthood. So when my daughter's father was murdered, and I saw similar behavior that she exhibited as a young girl, similar to how I acted out, and similar to stories that my grandmother told of how my mother acted out when she was a teenager. My mother's father abandoned the family, and then he was murdered. So I come from 5 generations of fatherlessness. So that's a little bit about me. Hopefully I can share a little bit more later.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your candor. Thank you for jumping in. And thank you really how sharing how your life's work literally connects with your life as a whole. So thank you again, Lauren. Sir?
Yes, ma'am. James Toney. Again, I am also honored, humbled to be on this show with you all and to meet Dr. Huff for the first time. Interesting story. Um, I, what can I say about me? I love people. I've been in the people, you call it the people space for over 30 years. I have coached and mentored, and it's very interesting that we're kind of taking this little twist as we knew it was going to probably do. That one of the things that I've been drawn to for years are young ladies without fathers. I have I call them my front line. I have about 5 young ladies outside my biological daughter that I've known since they were second and third grade, and watched them become very productive adult, community movers and shakers. And that's why I really resonate with what you all were talking about. But I've also been an advocate for the Black Male Initiative. I'm a brother. You cut my vein, I'm going to bleed black. I'm black to the bone, as they say. I am one that I guess if I had a mantra for myself, it would be my mission is your purpose. It's all about purpose. If you don't know your why, you'll never know the how and the what. And so we are here, just I believe, divinely appointed as a life coach, and and so that's pretty much HBCU grad. Yes, one of many. Yeah, got a master's at Regent University, and we're just loving life now. Just loving life.
Absolutely. So welcome, JT. Pastor, minister, author, speaker, motivational speaker. Welcome, Dr. Lauren Huff, advocate, author, friend, community influencer, so on and so forth. Y'all, if you're just coming in, get comfy, invite a friend, tell a friend, leave a comment, let us know where you are from in the world, in the country, and share with us as we begin to dialogue, y'all, what your questions are. How many of you grew up without a father? It's so prevalent now. It is so prevalent. Back when I was coming up, I am fortunate that I was in a home with 2 parents, and it was almost like, this is the way we had to work it. Even if they didn't get along, they felt that it was so important that both the mother and father be present, that it was just a thing, especially in our Black communities. But life has happened, y'all, and we've had to pivot, but we've still had to remain strong. But it has caused challenges. It has caused trauma. And where I think I'm connected to JT is, it is imperative for me to help people seek out their purpose. I'm a catalyst of change to make sure that I'm going to dig deep. I'm going to ask you the questions. I'm going to ask about your feelings, your background, your financial, instability or stability, to find out what your purpose is and help you to run there. But a lot of times, y'all, trauma, and a lot of times coming from our childhood, those traumas have just really wreaked havoc in our life. I love, though, what the pandemic did, y'all. It made us very open, or more open, about talking about trauma. Very openly, very candidly, and seeking professional help. So I love that. So Lauren, you were telling us that when you grew up, you grew up without that father. I'm just going to jump right in personal, and then we'll hit the professional, because we know both of y'all are quite capable. And so what is one vivid memory that you have, just to know that this something is missing in this construct, that this might be an issue for me?
I think the memory that I remember is kindergarten, going to school to register, and my grandmother takes me, and I see other children coming to be registered with both of their parents. And I saw that I was different. So I would say it was very early, about 5 years old.
Yes, 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 yes. Now, did this cause you to react or act out in any kind of way?
Yes. So my organization started off as a mentorship program, but there was more needed. So now I advocate for girls growing up in father absent homes. Um, I think it's very important to when children are acting out to look at the root cause to why they're acting out and try to fix that. With me, my faith helped me through a lot of things that I've gone through, and so I give all my credit to uh, to God.
Absolutely.
Um, and so my father, even though I tried to reach out to him, he had no interest in having a relationship with me. I remember being 15 and trying to find him. And he asked me, why you keep trying to look for me? I don't love you because you never gave me a reason to. And
Mm.
that devastated me. And so
Yeah.
I always felt if my father doesn't love me, why would anybody else? And so I
Mm-hmm.
was constantly going into relationships, looking for love, um, anywhere I could find it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Y'all, if you're just coming in, Successful but Single podcast, we're talking about single father situations, the importance of the parental in the household, and what can happen when there's a lack of, an absence of, because it's very prevalent now. Thank you, Felicia Robinson, for watching. Hey, girl. Hey, you from Tampa. Dad in and out of the home. Just pretty inconsistent, right? Thank you so much for being candid. So as you're listening, we are please share any comment that you have with us. Y'all feel free to share it too. There are other people I'm sure who will really, benefit from the conversation that we're going to have this evening. So again, Lauren, thank you. You said, 5 years old. That's pretty young to realize that there's something different about this. But then you said as you got older, you actually reached out to your father and he didn't reach back, for lack of a better way to put it. JT, I want you to kind of I know you're not her father. I know you were not in the situation, but as a man, can you interpret what her father was really saying? Of course, he said he rejected her,
You know,
at that time. But what do you feel like men are feeling at that time, especially knowing that he had been incarcerated, not in the home?
as simple as this may sound, and most brothers that I speak that I have talked to that are actually in a situation like that right now, that they literally have told me, I do not know how to love anyone. And it came from where from their perspective how it was. It's almost as if it's a subliminal rites of passage that's passed down with men that are not in the home. They just don't. They don't know how to do it. I'm dealing with a brother right now whose wife is literally about to leave the situation, primarily because it's not even it's almost if it's not just a father daughter, it's just a man female. He just doesn't know how to reach out. Now that's really maybe not be an excuse, because I can't even begin to imagine the
Right.
pain of 5 years old and 15 years old and
Yes.
being told I don't love you, because I too came from two parents, but I've many friends who never that really didn't see their father, and
Absolutely.
they have passed that down to my friends who are
Mm-hmm.
doing the same thing, and we're 50 and 60 something, and they're doing the same thing to their daughter and their granddaughter. But it's that question that if we can answer, we all would be rich by giving a solution to that answer, because
Absolutely.
it's again, most men that are in that situation absolutely have no clue on how to love and making themselves vulnerable. You know,
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
if I if I do this, am I gonna get rejected?
Mm-hmm.
In opposed to them thinking about who they've rejected, they're thinking about what rejection they may encounter if they decide they want to drop. I'm gonna do this. What's the risk? And most brothers, emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
we don't take risk,
Don't take risk and you don't take rejection.
and we don't take rejection well, and we go to the
Correct.
extreme. We literally go to the extreme when we are rejected.
Yes.
And I mean the extreme. I mean violence. abuse, whether
Wow.
emotional or physical, that's our cop out,
Mm-hmm.
because now I can gain power
Right.
over someone,
Right.
and and I can just, when I heard her say 15, and he makes that statement, who would make a statement to someone that's trying to find them
Mm-hmm.
unless they want to try to keep that power over them,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
And those are just thoughts, right? We are not trying to say that well he's thinking, but as a male, again, like you said, there are some patterns, there are some things, that kind of help shape our narratives, especially with her dad being incarcerated. So, Dr. Lauren, you jump in whenever you want to. I'm just kind of going to volley back and forth about this. Did you want to say something? Because I definitely wanted to say something about that comment.
Well, I have two sisters. My father had two more daughters, and he
Okay.
wasn't present in their lives either.
Okay.
And if you just looked at our lives and put them side by side, you can see that we all made similar mistakes as far
Mm-hmm.
as getting into relationships with men.
Yes.
And it's very unfortunate because I know they say children look at their father as the first love or blueprint of how a man should treat you. And
Absolutely.
so what about those girls who've never had that? So
Mm-hmm.
they're blindly going in these relationships and just finding men to find love. And that doesn't always
Absolutely.
work out because men see that and they take advantage of women that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, even just to kind of continue to step back in that, we're again talking about the importance of a parental structure in the home and what can happen when they're not there for sons or daughters. Again, of course, as Lauren being a woman, we took it from that perspective. But then I took it and juxtaposed it to what JT said as far as what her father may have been thinking. And again, we find out that usually, especially in the Black society, there is absence of a parental figure in the home, a paternal parental figure. Begin, he's gone on to another family, incarceration, death, or again, not being able to adapt to being a husband and or father.
Well,
And
I'm sorry, Natalie, go
please,
ahead.
no, jump on in.
I wanted
Jump.
to add some more because people don't really look at this, but think about military separation.
Yes, come on.
The father can be away for years and the
Mhm.
child has to go through different holidays without him. And you can also think about a father who may be in the home but emotionally unavailable
Yeah.
because maybe he's on drugs or maybe he's out chasing women or maybe he just works all the time.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so there are other reasons why the father's not in the home
Oh, I love.
besides just incarceration and divorce and abandonment.
Mhm. So just even not even being present in the home. And again, relationships take work, y'all, all kinds. Whether it's a husband and a wife, whether it's the father to the children, the mother to the children. And a lot of times we get into relationships, sometimes for the wrong reasons. We end up having children, and then it just kind of creates a complex dynamics that we have to be able to navigate through. Again, if we were husbands, or I'm speaking for the man that I cannot speak for, only in theory. Again, if we're also too, we're husbands and fathers, but we grew up in a home where the father was not present, whether it was physically, spiritually, mentally, financially, those make men pull back. You feel less than. You feel that you have either come short or done a disservice some type to your family. And sometimes that's hard to deal with, like you said. So thank you for bringing that point up that, absent from the home doesn't necessarily mean physically. It can definitely have those types of things. So JT, let's go back to you because you were married, and then you're now in your single season. But tell me about a time when you saw the importance of that parental figure in the home, even if it was a time where you may have been going through your own challenges or dealing with your own imperfections or insecurities. Tell us about a time where you found that was just really the light bulb came on for you that this is impactful.
The importance of being there for my kids, is that what
Yes,
pretty much? uh
kids, mentees and all the people that you've influenced?
A couple of times that I can really, if I can just be candid, when my
Please.
when my daughter lost her virginity, my first instinct was, what you do? I did the first thing that a daddy would do, but I caught myself because I immediately remembered catching myself and telling myself at that point, she didn't need an enemy. What she needed was a friend. Because my daughter and I had always, I mean, even from her, I remember when she began her cycle, she came to me before she went to her mama. I said, girl, you better go to your mama because I don't know nothing about what's happening now, okay? And there are bullet points throughout my daughter's life. And we have a set of twins. But there are bullet points but throughout my life that I can think of right now that I'm glad that I was there for her.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've always been that first, even now, I'm still her first line of defense and she's married. So I know how important it is. But I also know that it's got to be dealt with properly. God, I wish I could say what I really want to say.
You can say it.
It's got to be healthy. It's got to be healthy.
Feel free to speak freely.
Yeah, it's got to be healthy. One of the things that I think that I told you that I've got 5 young ladies on my front line that are very beautiful, very desirable. But because I always tell my daughter Asia, she was my mentor on how to be a good father, I never allowed the physical. I never stepped over that line with the physical. And let me tell you, it could have happened. I could have been a dirty old man, straight up. But I chose not to because I knew, even at their age, that we are adults, consenting adults, that one thing may say, all of everything that I've worked to help get them where they are could be jeopardized by the slip of the tongue or the bad movement or whatever. So knowing how important just my integrity was, that's one of the things that I would say that I put into my daughter. Integrity.
Yes.
Integrity and a sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And that she doesn't have to allow the opposite sex to dictate to her because I've done that for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Like I said, feel free to be candid. Feel free to share life experiences, professional experiences, because again, we're talking about the importance of the parental in the home, whether you're married, single. We're talking about how to do relationships right, how to do relationships the best that you can. And a lot of us did not have this guidance on really how to be good parents, how to be good spouses. And so we're taking this time, y'all, to step back, even if we have to start from square one, real and how to do this right. That's what I love about this podcast, y'all. And if you're just coming in, thank you much for tuning in. Thank you for speaking up. Please share it, like it, because we're talking about the importance of the parental figure, the paternal parental in the home. Single dad situations or just dad situations at all as we jump off the month of June where we celebrate our men. So I'm glad we're having these candid discussions because a lot of times we just don't know. And so a lot of times in our adulthood, we're spending time rewinding, going through and undoing, what was done, or either using it as building blocks to grow, on. So Lauren, back to you on that. We've been speaking about effects. We start out with your personal story. You grew up without a father in the home, and even when you tried to reach out to later. And so let's just talk about parental dynamics. And in your opinion, what does a mother bring to a table in a family? And again, this may be simple questions, y'all, but it's really not really eye-opening just hearing it articulated. What do you feel women bring to the table, or mother figures? And then what do paternal figures bring? And why is that important to have?
It's important to have both parents because I believe that God put a purpose for both parents to be a part of that child's life for different reasons. I think that the mothership provides nurturing for that child. The father would be more of maybe the discipline person for that child. So I think it's very important to have both pieces when raising a child. My daughter, like I said before, her father was murdered before she was born, so she never knew him. She always felt a void in her life, and she acted out. She ran away. She did anything for that attention. But because I had gone through that, I ran away as a teenager as well. I understood why she was acting out and was able to understand. My mother and I didn't have an emotional relationship. So with my situation, I didn't have a loving mother. And so I felt from my mother, I felt a rejection, I would say. And with my father, I felt abandoned. And I remember being a child, and I would see other children, and I wished I was them because I was such a sad child.
Wow. So let's talk about that, because I kind of want to go back and forth between you and JT and the different dynamics, that kind of shaped you all's life, but also the lives of your children. So you said something very key. And again, y'all, it's not kind of where we start, it's where we finish. But you really use, Lauren, what you experienced in your own life, and you recognize what was going on in your own, daughter's life. So you had some understanding there. What about parents who did not come from, say, who had two parents in the home, or were not able to recognize those signs? They just thought they were bad kids, like say, that kid just bad, this bad kid, go to school, that kid just bad. What would you suggest that parents look for to identify this type of rejection and this type of abandonment?
I think first you should not call a child bad ever. I think if you think about self-fulfilling prophecy, I think that once you keep putting that title or that label on that child, then that child will end up being what you're saying.
Absolutely.
So never say a child is bad. I think it's important. Therapy is so important to me. I went to therapy 4 different times in order to help me finally fix my father wound. And I think therapy helped me be the person I am today. But definitely never call a child bad. If a child is acting out, there's a reason for that. And I think it's very important for the parent to find out what that reason is instead of labeling that child or allowing anyone to label that child.
Is there a way we can talk to our children to ask them in so many words, what's going on? What are you feeling? In a way that they will be able to kind of articulate the source of their frustration or their anger?
But it has to be a safe place, because sometimes children don't feel comfortable talking to their parent about certain things. So as a parent, you need to always provide a safe place for that child to be able to speak freely, because the parent might be the problem.
Yes.
And you have to be able to listen and understand that and work through that. But a lot of times people don't like being corrected. So the parent might get offended and might punish the child for speaking openly or candidly. So it needs to be an environment, a safe environment. And if you feel like your child cannot talk to you, I advocate for therapy, or maybe a mentor or a close family member that they feel comfortable talking to. I had an aunt who I could always go to.
Yes, it's so good that we find our children someone to be in their lives, mentors, big brothers, big sisters, different organizations. I believe, JT, you have a similar organization that provides, that kind of support, because again, we may be the problem. We hate to admit that.
Yeah. Can I ask, Doc, how, I was just sitting here just listening. I'm so amazed at your story and where you are now to be able to tell it is a testimony in itself. And I'm quite sure you've not even scratched the surface on the emotional scars that it has brought on you. The question I would like to ask, because a lot of times we as Black men, we often make this statement that I hate. and it's used with, in quotation, the angry black woman. Okay. And a lot of times we don't know what you have gone through as past hurts, past injuries, the scar tissue that's on your soul, all those things before we, I don't want to get emotional, before we make that statement. And if there's any one sector of our communities, white, black, green, yellow, polka dot, or velvet, it's the black woman. She's taken so much. The question, with all of that said, as a dissertation, the question I have for you is this: how do you do it? I mean, as relates to relationship with other men. Uh, you said that it affected your relationships. In what way am I making? In what way did it affect you with other relationship with other men, not your father, but with other men?
Do you mean the me before therapy and healing or after?
Yeah, before.
I I really wanted to be loved, and if anyone showed that they loved me, then I was all in. And not
Okay.
knowing that it was a toxic relationship, and not knowing that they're just manipulating me to get what they wanted from me.
Okay.
So it negatively impacted me not having my father.
Mhm.
If I would have had a father to show me the right way, the right type of man to look for, or how a woman should be treated, that would have helped me tremendously. But I was in an abusive relationship, to where the man was physically and verbally abusive to me, and I stayed because I saw my mom in a physically abusive relationship.
Mhm. 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 It's so good that we recognize these signs, you know what I mean, that come from abandonment and rejection. And y'all, it's okay to voice that, oh my goodness, that's what I was experiencing. You know, my dad was not in the home, or he was gone in the military. Um, may have been sexual assault, y'all. I'm just gonna be blank. You know, that's not present. It's present, but you know, an abusive relationship, there's an absence of something. Can I just be real? And so it's okay to say, oh my gosh, this is what I was experiencing, the abandonment and rejection. And it's okay to label them as such, because the only way we can get help, y'all, is to be able to say, this is where I was, this is what I'm dealing with, and then be able to look for someone to help you through that process. Some of our fathers, y'all, were going through the same thing. If you look back over our life, I was fortunate, y'all, that I grew up in a two-parent home, but there were times when both my mom and my dad at different times were emotionally unavailable. They did not tell us they loved us. They did not, I mean, they were always there, you know, every recital, every church program, football, you know, everything. They were there, but because there were some voids from their life. My mom's dad was not in her life. My dad's father was not in their life. And when you go back and you look, you're like, wow, I can see that void. So even though they were there, y'all, they weren't there. They didn't know how to express that paternal love, because they did not have that protecting that men come in and are, you know, healthy men are able to display. They could not display that to us. So we grew up with some emotional voids. I grew up with a similar scenario of looking for love in all the wrong places, as we say. Like you said, anybody who kind of attached that word love or showed a bit of interest, you know, I was all on board, all on board. And then just to continue to go down, I was married for 17 years, but then unmarried. It was an abusive relationship. So, you know, we thought it was best, right, to separate. We thought it was best, but then one of the first things I said, because a lot of times you're going through those things personally, you're like, I got to get out. I got to get out. And I thought it was best because, again, my son was also subject to that abuse. But the one of the first things I said when, you know, kind of the smoke cleared, if you will, oh my goodness, I've made my son a statistic. Now he is, you know, he is absent from his father. And where everything was not hunky dory, I still believe that there is a role that men play. But because his father was going through a time of abandonment and rejection. He was not able to show that love, even in a divided home. And I still believe that there are some ways that we could have come together to co-parent. But again, when you're going through your throughs and you're not seeking the help that you need to move forward, and you're dealing with your own issues from your own past, my ex-husband's father and mother were both in the home, but because of mental illnesses from his mom, she was not emotionally present. His dad was carrying the load of two parents. And so, it's important, y'all, to understand the dynamics when you are coming together to procreate, when you're coming together just to have relationships. Because sometimes we just go through a season, y'all, where we just kind of want to be loved, or, we want to be doing it what everybody else is doing in the street. You want to be outside, but take time to think these things through, the implications from coming together in a relationship. Take time to think of, what have I dealt with in my own life? Have I gotten help for it? Am I willing to, is this something I want to pass on to the next generation, or a spouse or a loved one? And how can I do better? JT, how can a man do better? How can men do better? Sometimes it's hard for men to speak up. It's hard for men to be supported. Again, sometimes we're like, well, he the man. He should be tougher than that. Sometimes we're not getting even support. You're not getting support even from at home. What's one way that men can reach out to be supported?
To be supported, or to be supportive, or
To
whatever.
be supported, because sometimes you're going through things, some rejection, issues, abandonment issues from your own fathers, anger, incarcerated, and dealt with things there. So I was asking, how can men, how do you feel men can speak up, knowing that we really don't create a society where men can be nurtured enough to come forth and say, this is a safe space? How can we create safe spaces?
Well, I think what's happening more, men are recognizing that it's okay to be open. But for a long time, men thought it was soft, or that you are punk, or you're not being a man if you admit your pain.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't realize that only makes matters worse. My most absolute freest point in my life is when I recognized that after my divorce, I was able to voice myself that I was a part of the problem. I I didn't I didn't admit that at first,
Yes.
because I thought that if I would admit it, then I would be admitting that I was wrong, that I was the cause of this, I was the reason for this, and but when I realized that didn't really matter, it didn't matter, and I was able to voice the freedom that I felt
Mm-hmm.
after I got divorced. I held on for about 10 years. And as a result, I was afraid to get in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Anything, I was like, I work for the airline, so I can fly and I can, you know, ma'am, thank you, ma'am, and fly back and go about my business. And, you know, but that's old now, and I recognize that the reason that it's freeing is because, can I just get biblical? He who the Son sets free is free
It's free
indeed.
indeed. Absolutely.
It's free
Absolutely.
indeed,
Mhm.
and I'm telling you, if it had not been for the fact, not the universe, but the God that created the universe,
Yeah,
okay?
drill it down. Tell
Let me just be real,
Speak
because
openly.
I can't talk to the universe, but I can have a nice dialogue with my daddy, and that's when I begin to start releasing. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that when I'm dealing with brothers, the first thing that I ask him to do is just to be brutally honest with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where it starts. It
Yeah.
starts within you. Where are you? When I'm coaching a brother, when I'm mentoring young men, when I'm dealing with teenagers, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
My first thing is, do you even know why you're here? It goes
Yeah.
back to purpose.
Back to
It goes
purpose
back to purpose. Do
every
you even know
time.
why you're here?
Every
And
time, all the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
But I'm gonna push it even a little more. And y'all, if you're just coming in, hey, welcome. Good evening, good night. Good morning. If you're watching the replay, this is Successful but Single podcast. We're doing our thing without a ring. If we're talking about relationships, y'all. So if you don't say just, oh, it's single stuff, let me turn it off. No. We're talking relationships tonight. We're talking about the importance of a parental in the home and the detriment when there is an absence of that figure in the home. So I was just asking JT, how can men be open, and how did he become open to be able to say, hey, I need help? And he made a very valid point. Historically, yes, it was considered soft, demeaning, emasculating to say that I have a problem, I need help. It appears as weakness, not meekness, right? Weakness. But I'm still push you a little further. What happened? What kind of space did you find? What kind of space can men find? What kind of space can we create so that they feel safe enough? Because I'm not going to say, y'all, I'm going to be personal about it. I personally am learning to do that a little better. I've done a lot of work to find and find that men have hurts just like we do. They suffer from rejection, depression, abandonment, just like we do. But I came from a mindset because my dad almost kind of set me up that way. Men are sorry. So just go ahead and just deal with it. They're not going to be honest about their feelings. They basically going to lie to you. I mean, my dad, that's how he used to talk to me about stuff, and so I always came from you're foot halfway in, halfway out anyway in this relationship. So, why should I give you time of day? Why should I respect you? Then I realized that was a mistake, because men still need that safe place as well to be able to open up. So what kind of environment and how did you find it, JT? How can men find it? How can we be that person to our men so that they will feel differently about this? That it's not weak, that it's not going to come back and bite them in the butt to be very transparent and vulnerable with us.
I think that again, I'm going to go back to something that might be as simple but it's communication is key. It is almost to the point where to be brutally honest with yourself. Again, when I look back over it, when I look back and I think how many times I probably could have, I don't want to say saved my marriage, but if I would have just been more communicative, if I would have communicated what, and she didn't pressure me, is that again, I just thought it was a risky thing for me to be honest. And I just did not want to be seen as the weakling.
Yes.
I mean, that's it. I again, the communication is it is the key. I had to come to some grips about my own self. Being raised up in Arkansas, we saw these things called we would every season there would be, you can look out across the field and see puffs of smoke.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad would tell me it was called burning the crops. And every season, when a new crop was to be, planted, they would burn the previous season's crop. But he said that they would take all the ashes and all the old dirt, and they would use that for fertilizer for the new season of fruit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Come on
I
now.
think that what happens is what we as men, we have to learn how to take all those things that happen to us, regurgitate those things for a new season. Because truly, 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 it's more freeing to be free.
It's more freeing to be free. You saying
more freeing to be free. I'm telling you,
freeing to be free. Lauren, what do you say about that? What is your from a female's perspective? What is a way that we can allow men to be more present, to be more open, to be more honest?
I would go back to just saying, provide a safe place for them. Let them know that you completely support them and that you're there for them. I think the foundation of any relationship is to establish a friendship. So before you enter into a relationship, make sure that person's your best friend. Because if they are, then they will be open to talk to you about whatever that's going on with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that should be established in the beginning.
Okay, good. And I'm not trying to be funny, y'all. I'm asking how, because a lot of times we hear these words, y'all: create a safe space, be transparent, be vulnerable. Open and honesty is not weakness, for our men, but we want to know how. We want to take that next step. Laura, I want to go back because again, as a doctor, you had to write a dissertation. And I read that dissertation, y'all. She's like, you actually read it? I was like, yeah, hello. But it was talking about, y'all, oh my goodness. It was just talking about women. She did a study for women who, in the absence of their parents, still went on to become very successful leaders, influencers, presidents, head of executive directors of nonprofits. And you made a statement that in that dissertation that during Obama's administration, a program came online, where he provided resources so that men, could have some structural change, could have some resources that they needed to close that gap, if they will, whether it be education, financial. But you didn't see a similar program for girls, young girls, because your platform, y'all, and if I don't know if you heard her, her nonprofit is really geared toward recognizing the absence of fathers in a home, but then providing the resources more to the women, to the daughters, the mothers. And so as you did that study, did you find that in these women's process to still become successful, that they, because I didn't read the whole thing, y'all, it was a dissertation. I tried to get in there as much as I could. It was absolutely just astounding, y'all. It was the studies that she found and how she proposed that it be used in our communities today. But did you find somewhere in there that they found a replacement, an alternative, some type of father or male figure to help them be successful, or did they do it without?
That was a question I didn't ask, and that's okay. A good topic for another study.
Okay.
However, the women that I studied, they did say what helped them become successful was their faith and resiliency.
Yes.
And what hindered them was their inability to trust and the leadership style that they had. Okay. So if you think about trusting, not everyone is trustworthy. So think about if you grew up without a father, you're not going to probably won't trust men if you think about it, because the man who gave you life disappointed you.
Yes.
There's something called attachment patterns that's developed in infancy. So if you had two loving parents growing up, you're more likely to establish secure attachment patterns. But if you didn't have, if you were born in a home where you did not have loving parents, then you would probably establish insecure attachment. And so that insecurity would go on throughout the life and carry on to adulthood. So if you're insecure, you're not really trusting a whole lot of people.
Yes. Oh my God, that is so good, y'all. And I love to talk about the psychology behind things, just the patterns, the trauma that really a lot of us started in our youth, because y'all, again, helping you to understand and identify those really helps us to move forward. And y'all in the chat, I am not forgetting you. So, hey, come on in, say good morning, say good evening, say good night. Let us know if you had a parent, or, if you came from a one parent or two parent home, or if you're currently in a situation where there is a absence of a paternal figure. Tell us how it affected you. Tell us what steps that you took, to make sure that that gap was closed, to at least have those kind of concepts, characteristics that come from when you have those different types of constructs in your home, to have the mother and the father present. So yeah, please talk to us. I know y'all watching. We appreciate it. Didn't want to leave you out. We do know you're here, and we appreciate you being here. Again, this is the Successful but Single podcast. We're doing our thing without a ring. Talking to my friends here, Dr. Lauren Huff and Dr. JT James Toney. We're here today, and we're talking about the importance of a parental construct. So, y'all, I know we've been on here for a long time. I'm not going to hold you much longer, but I have to go back and do a little recap. Y'all, studies have shown that the absence of a man in a home can cause detriment to our children, whether it's boys or girls. It can cause detriment. It is also shown, though, that there are so many alternatives now. Big brothers, big sisters, different type of mentorship programs that you can find those type of people, safe people, and you have a way to vet those people. You have a way to talk and develop relationships with people who can bring in those things that you lack. Y'all, I know, and I am not this is not a circuit or a system to talk about homosexual relationships or behaviors in the home, but what I do want to point out is there is an importance of having the female species and the male species in bringing up children. It goes all the way back to biblical days when they set up the family structure. It had a male and a female, and there's an importance to that. Men bring things to the table that we need. Women bring things to the table that we need in the family dynamic and component equation, but also businesses, churches, hospitals, law firms. I truly believe that there should always be a male and a female species sitting together on all of these components, because we bring different things. We have different proclivities. We have different passions, strength and weaknesses. And when we come together, we just form a bond of completeness. And I just feel like that's just really it is the truth. It's a truth that we have to embrace. What has happened though, y'all, in society, there's been some breakdowns. We didn't know how to love. We didn't know how to come to the table. We didn't know how to be strong for our children, strong for our spouses. We didn't know how to love. We didn't know how to accept love sometimes. Come on, somebody. I mean, it's not always the absence of. Sometimes we don't even know how to accept love because of things that have happened in other environments in our life. And so there is an absence, whether physical, mental, spiritual, there's an absence. But today I wanted to talk about, y'all, the importance of the parental construct in the home. The importance of, even if we didn't get it right, even if daddies didn't get it right, the importance of seeing even a dad go through a process where he wasn't perfect and being able to say, I'm here for you. I'm not perfect, but I'm here. Let's do the best we can. JT, you made a great comment that your daughter mentored you on how to be a good father. Talk to us about that and how that allowed you to have healthy relationships with the females that you mentored.
Well, well, I think what Asia is, I call my daughter Asia my mini me with hair. She's just like me, just much prettier. But I mean, she's never been afraid to tell me when I was wrong, or that I should think about doing something a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Or, Dad, maybe you should, if my son and I at one time was like myself and my father, when we trying to find our way, we butted heads, and I would just say, well, just let them, forget it. She would come and with Dad, if I were you, or Dad, and she did that even when she was a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
When she would see me do something that she thought was not right with her mother, just a basic discussion. And so it put into me the important. I knew then that one thing I knew, that what I was teaching her was manifesting itself, because she was using it back on me. And even to this day, she's 35 years old, married, and with my first granddaughter. And if I put something out there a little bit out of my character on social media, she's the first one to say, well, Dad, did you think about this when you said that? You know, you might be offending this, or you might be, I don't really want to hear that. But you know,
Grown people don't like to be told what to do, but we need it. We need
but
it.
we
We need
need it. Oh my God. So yeah, it is, you know, the relationship, and it is bled off
Yes.
into every
Yes.
other relationship that I have with young ladies. It
Oh,
has. Since
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So you all, as we, recognize that, the absence of in the home of our parentals, our our paternal parentals, has created some issues, y'all. There are also solutions. There are also, we see the benefits. We see how, the iron sharper iron. We're modeling things for our children. They can go ahead and learn it. Use it on us. Also, too, we teach them how to have conflict. And conflict resolution. We teach when in the absence or with the presence of healthy relationships. We're modeling things for them, how to manage your finances, how to have good relationships, or even sometimes we show them what not to do. And thank goodness they even learn from, when we aren't perfect. So, just wanted to have Lauren speak to a comment and before we wrap it up. Hey, Steph, wanted to there was a comment in the chat from Miss Felice. It says, in my opinion, these men need to be accountable for abandoning their children and your families. How would you respond to that?
I'm curious to know when she's accountable in what way. I know we can't ask that. I'm not really sure what she means by that. But like you said earlier, the men might be going through things themselves, dealing with depression, substance abuse. So you really need to get to the root of the problem, and maybe they need help to heal from whatever they're going through so that they can be a positive person in that child's life.
Thank you for your response to that. And Felice, you're welcome to follow up if you are still here and listening. I just wanted to make sure we address the questions that in the comments in the chat. And thank you all for just listening, being attentive. What questions do you have for either one of our guests tonight as we wrap it up? Y'all know we can talk about this forever, right? Because it's so important that we do have mothers and fathers in the home. It's so important that we recognize that even our fathers and mothers, y'all, didn't have it all together. Candidly dealing with my son after his father and I got divorced. He was angry. He was angry at both of us. Even if, I was around, he still was angry. And we had to work through that. I had to listen to him to know when I was wrong and things that I needed to work on. I went to therapy. He went to therapy, and we were trying to work through these issues. How we even ironed them all out. We have not. He's still angry, about some stuff. Again, y'all, because of the absence of fathers, the absence even of myself. I was sometimes emotionally unavailable, physically unavailable, because I was working. I was trying to bring in the income of two parents so that he'd live a decent lifestyle, which I thought was helpful since, he wasn't, because I was hoping he wouldn't miss his father so much or miss out on some of the things. But again, I look around and he told me that still wasn't right. I still needed you. I still needed my dad. And we've been able to talk about these things over the years. But again, y'all, we learn our parents are not perfect. Should we be held accountable? In a sense, but sometimes we just don't know. Hurt people, right, y'all? And that's so important why I really try to bring on people, like Lauren with the mental health background, JT, who has a background in mentoring and providing a healthy environment for young women. Our friend on the line, Miss Stephanie McNeil, reconciliation coach, relationship specialist. She's done so much helping people right through their traumas to love again, to be resilient. You talked about that, Lauren, in your dissertation, how these women learn how to be resilient, how to bounce back from trauma. There are so many methods we can employ, y'all. I just encourage you all, whether your parents were there, whether your mom was there, whether your dad was there or not, go ahead and deal with it. Say I was angry about it. Say I felt abandoned. I felt rejected. But then now what, y'all? What are we going to do now? Yes, this still affects us in our adult life, in our young adult life. Again, looking for relationships to fill those voids that may not have been healthy. But how can you recognize that this is an unhealthy relationship? Unless you get somebody or get a mirror, get someone who can show you what healthiness looks like, and then help to take steps to move toward, healthy relationships, or, forgiving them. Oh my goodness. Stephanie McNeil is on here, y'all. We're going to definitely have her on here again, y'all. The power of forgiveness. Yes, Felice, we need to hold these people accountable, but can we forgive? Can we forgive them? Can we understand that they didn't have good models of good parents, good father, good mother structures? Can we understand that as Lauren's dad was incarcerated, how much trauma was he going through dealing with his own, negligence or own indiscretions, that he couldn't come and be that person that she needed? Does Lauren or either other women understand that? Can we say, what, that was the situation? This is my life. This is my reality and my truth. However, can we go on, just like the women in her dissertation, to still be successful, to still be resilient, to still, to continue to be influencers despite the trauma? Okay, y'all. So again, as we kick off June, the time I call it, where we celebrate milestones. Most of the weddings, y'all, most of the weddings in America are in June. We celebrating graduates and they going on to the next chapter of their life. We celebrate our men through Father's Day and other things that we celebrate in June. Y'all, I just wanted to kick off June with this special edition of Successful But Single podcast, just honoring our men, talking about the importance of paternal structures in the home, what they bring to the table, and what we're missing when we don't have that healthy environment, so that we can recognize it, so that we can try to recreate the narrative, y'all, of bringing the mix that we need for healthy relationships. We know that strong families create strong communities, create strong societies, right? Strong platforms. And so that's why I always like to bring attention to the things, not because of the trauma associated, but that there are steps, y'all, that we can take to overcome and move forward. Okay. So, again, so I want to thank Lauren. I want to thank James for today again, y'all, because they're amazing. We only talked about, y'all, a very small aspect of their life. They both do so many other things. Black caucuses and, again, like I said, traveling all around the world and meeting with different people. So before we sign off, I want Lauren, you can start first. Tell people how they can find you, how they can support your nonprofit, even some of the books that you've written, and how they can find them.
I want to say one thing before I do that. The U.S. Census Bureau shows that there are 18.5 million children in a home without a father. So next weekend is Father's Day. Now think about those children who don't have anyone to celebrate. I definitely wanted to say that. My nonprofit is called Daughters Need a Father. The website is www.daughtersneedafather.org. You can reach me at lauren@daughtersneedafather.org. I'm also on Facebook at DNAF Incorporated. I published 2 books. This book is called I Chose to Be Victorious. It's available on Amazon. And this book is called A Guidebook for Single Mothers Raising Daughters. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Y'all, please go out there. I would encourage you both, Lauren and JT. I'm gonna get to you in a second. Please make sure you all drop these links to these books, drop your links to your nonprofits, drop your links to your social media tags, wherever you want to be found, so people can utilize these services. Y'all, I reach out to these people so that you can see that there are great people doing great things to help us, again, change the narrative, become healthier, be honest about where we are so we can move forward. That's very important to me. It's not important that we succeed and that we've overcome. It's important that we overcome together, which is why I bring intentional influencers on this show. Okay, JT, how can we find you? Tell us about the publications that you have. Drop those links, names, chat, tags, all of that. You got your mute on.
It's interesting because I'm right in the process of rebranding and redoing a lot of things. But of course, Facebook You can always hit me on Facebook. I still utilize Facebook. If you need me, just hit me through Messenger right now. Also with my IG tag is Twins Papa, TWINZ POPPA. I will be doing something with the cigar life coaching thing. It's in the process. But right now, those two platforms you can reach me. I have 3 books. Turning Your Mess into Ministry. The second one was The Weight of the Weight. You can't teach a butterfly how to fly. And of course, the last one we met through Stephanie McNeil's anthology. This was an excellent project. I'm still just loving this. And
Yes, me too.
and pretty much, if you go through my Facebook page, you will find out how you can actually get those. I'm working on a publisher to help me get it out there a little bit better. But that's
Mhm.
it. Yeah, pretty
I
much.
love it. I love it. Thank you both. And thank you all for watching, listening, sharing, commented. If we missed questions, comments, it was not intentional, y'all. I'm really trying to be focused and present to have great dialogue with our guests. And I was trying to monitor the comments as well. I know we're on different social media platforms, including YouTube. But y'all listen to it, replay it, go back and share, reflect. Again, we're not trying to dig up the trauma of you not having a parent, or like, we're trying to bring exposure so that you will be encouraged to heal, to get help, to speak out. We can create a safe space for our men. Yes, we can all hold each other accountable for our actions, but in a loving manner.
Yeah.
Not in a judgmental manner, in a loving manner where we can find safety to move forward, y'all. When there is safety, when there's accountability, when there is communication, clear communication, and love, or love overcomes a lot of stuff, y'all.
Yep.
When we have those ingredients in a pot, my goodness,
Yes.
we can do amazing things. So again, y'all, I appreciate you listening. Go back wherever podcasts are found. You can go back and watch previous broadcasts of Successful But Single podcast. You can hear great shows about singles who's doing their thing without a ring, their success stories, their triumph stories, their overcome. We've had people in foster care, y'all. We have people without parents. We've had people with 2 parents, but they were both abusive. We've had all kinds of stories. So go back, listen to those stories. But then season 2, y'all, is my season that I'm really loving. I'm bringing people who are solution oriented on, forgiveness coaches, mental health counselors. We've had them all, y'all, authors, speakers, where they wrote their own stories. They talked about their cathartic bounce back to so that they were able to love again, be free to love. Well, I'm trying to bring solutions, y'all, for season 2, because we can talk about issues all day.
Yeah.
We can talk about problems and how they hurt us, and we got to hold them, accountable. And he did it, she did it, they they didn't love me back when I tried to reach out to be loved. We can, and we need to, be very honest about that. But then what next? So I try to bring people on here. Yes, come on. I try to bring people who are licensed, confident counselors, y'all, that you can pay a good hourly wage or through your insurance to get the help you need. Y'all pay these people what they were. They're taking on our burdens and making sure that we are healthy to go forward. Y'all, do you want to be healthy for yourself?
Absolutely.
Do you want to be healthy? Do you want to bounce back? Free. What you say, JT? Nothing feels better than freedom. Freedom is freeing.
Yes, it is.
So I pray that each of us strive toward that end. We've all had traumas. If you shake everybody's tree falling long enough, some bad fruit will fall from it. But how can we bounce back from it, y'all? And that is what I hope to share. That's what I hope to implement. That's what I hope to challenge people to move forward, because, y'all, there's still purpose in it all. There is still purpose. There are still people you can help. There are still places that you can go just by telling your story, your real story, the real truth. Okay. So, y'all, again, this is Successful Single Podcast. We're doing our thing without a ring. Thank you so much for coming on. We will see you next time. Bye-bye for now.